So I can start. My name is Grace Adams. I work for the Ignatian Solidarity Network. I know some of you are probably, I know many of you are probably familiar with ISN's work, but just kind of as a refresher, if not, ISN is a national education-based and advocacy organization that works quite a bit with young people, but then as well as individuals all within Catholic institutions and parishes, really in this leaning into this faith that does justice. So really looking at how can we connect through the lens of the Catholic faith and the Ignatian values and charisms to the work that we do, both on a personal level, but also in an institutional level as well. So ISN, one of our programs in this work is the Catholic Ethical Purchasing Alliance, which we call CEPA. And CEPA is where my work really lies in. So we'll talk a little bit about CEPA because it is connected to Capeltic, but that's really where I come from. And I started in 2022 with ISN. And I'm coming from to you from Rochester, New York as well. So I'll pass it along to Lalo if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Grace. And I really appreciate the whole ISN team for making this space possible. As Grace just mentioned, I think when she joined ISN, that was pretty the moment when we were starting to create new collaborations in the US. Even that you're gonna hear like during this webinar about the Chiapas state. I guess the three of you kind of know where Chiapas it is located in the south of Mexico. I am not from Chiapas. I am from a city, a central city in Mexico called Puebla. That is one of the main economic cities in Mexico. But anyway, I'm gonna try to introduce myself as if I am a person from Chiapas, because really Chiapas has this nature and spirit place that thank you to the coffee production, we can do these kind of links and networks. So what I'm always saying is that I am like a city boy. I finished my degrees on international trade, actually. I joined the automotive industry, but that was a moment in my life that I just noticed I didn't want to go through that space specifically to these big industries. So I decided to volunteer with the Jesuits. And this is an important thing because the Jesuits, they have a very strong base in, we know in many places of the world, but in Mexico, they do have works like social works in different parts of Mexico. One of them is Chiapas, because Chiapas, it is a, let's say in economic development, it is a very poor place in Mexico. So that's why the Jesuits, they set like a mission many years ago there. And due to that mission, they have different lines, the social line, the pastoral line, the economic line. Uh, so they really needed like volunteers to come and join, and I decided to volunteer with them. They took me to Chiapas, and I just find out this amazing project that we all know as Capeltic. We can relate Capeltic only through coffee, but Capeltic is just more than coffee. So yeah, I am the sales and education manager for Capeltic, and very excited about what is happening with the collaboration with ISN in the US, with the USA, and with this teamwork that Grace and me we have made during more than 1 year. So yeah, as Grace mentioned, feel free to come. Oh, thank you, Brian. I just see what you wrote on the chat. If there is many other questions, don't wait for the end, you can put the questions on the chat. And thank you again for having me here.
Thank you so much, Lalo. Um, so before we begin, I just wanted to give just some expectations of what you can expect in this hour. So I think we're gonna, oh, sorry, Barry, there we go. I think we're going to start with Lalo, kind of talking a little more about who Capeltic is, a little bit of the background of Capeltic, and also what sets Capeltic apart from other coffee producers and coffee vendors, and why Capeltic is special, and also has a partnership with the Jesuits, as well as a deeper connection to with some of our Catholic values and within our institutions and parishes. And then I'll kind of go into the second half of ISN's relationship with Capeltic, and how that started, what that looks like now, and then also go through a little bit of our website to show you where to find Capeltic if you need it, or if you're looking to order it, and how to do that as well. So that's sort of what to expect in this next, about 45 minutes to an hour. And then, of course, we'll end with time for some questions as well. So Lalo, I will pass it over to you then, to kind of start with, who is Capeltic and what's some of the background and history here.
Well, thank you, Grace. Thank you for all this. I'm gonna just turn a little back my camera. I have in my hands, let me see if, yeah, I think you can barely see. So this is for me to make sense, right? Maybe you are thinking about why this coffee thing is making such this webinar, like Grace mentioned, what is the difference for Capeltic? So what I have in my hands are raw beans, right? I don't know if you have seen raw beans before. I have a few of them, but then what I'm going to show you is now a final product. So what I want to mention is that Capeltic is just not this final product coffee, but Capeltic aims to develop the territory, because we are talking about a production system in the fields in Chiapas. In Mexico, as our country, we have four biggest states producing coffee, which are Chiapas, we have Veracruz, we have Puebla, that is actually my place, and we also have Oaxaca. But what it makes specific and special in Chiapas is that in Chiapas, producers, not only Capeltic producers, but many others, they produce organic coffee because they have there are many indigenous population that are very linked to the mother nature, right? So for me as a city boy, that was one of my surprises, like just to notice like how producers, both male and female producers, they have this strong connection with the field, because it may sound strange and it may sound poor, but the field is like the only thing they have. Like these populations is like everything that they can see are like mountains around there, but there's a way of living there too. So Capeltic aim to go and how to say, to introduce the producers to the society by saying, hey, this is a good quality product, sorry, but there are a relation with Mother Earth. There is relation with the uh, ancestors too. Uh, and we want to develop a quality product all the way to for the consumers to enjoy every sip of the coffee, right? So uh, I was not there in the project yet, but I was told that it was 22 years ago, when some of the producers in a specific community, it was a community called Nuevo Progreso, they start noticing that every time they finish the harvest, they needed to sell the raw product to the middleman, and the middleman will pay back to them what the coffee international price will set on the market. I'm gonna make like a pause here. I want to mention that the coffee, it is a commodity. It is the second commodity after the oil. So this means that this depends on an international price. Um, I don't know if you know, but the biggest coffee producer in the world is Brazil. And the only reason is because of the land of Brazil. That is a very huge territory. So if Brazil have a very good harvest during the year, they will offer a lot of coffee, so the international price will go all the way low. But if by any case Brazil has a bad harvest, a bad production, the international price will go all the way up. So what the Jesuits they noticed was like it doesn't make sense for the producers to work that hard all over the year and to receive an international price that they don't really know how much this will be. Because of course, the way they live there in the mountains, I'm talking about the producers in Chiapas, they don't have a TV with the news, and then they don't know how the world is, this supply and demand things. So the producers, the Capeltic producers, they start asking, what can we do all the way to have a better income for ourselves? So the key for this to happen was, let's add some value to our product and not just work with raw product anymore. We're gonna learn in the origin, because this is something that plays Capeltic apart, that we're gonna add the value in our origin. Well, what does that mean? To add value to the raw coffee beans, to roast the coffee. Because we consumers, we love, the smell of this roasting process. Every time we open a bag, it is like, oh, coffee is, like a mandatory thing for my life. So it was everything related also to the land rights and to this economic empowerment for the coffee producers. And some of the producers also start asking like, hey, how can we add value to our raw coffee product if we don't know how to roast the coffee? Um, so the Jesuits just said like, we're gonna learn about this, and then we're gonna have a, a big factory, a big roaster plant. So the sons of the producers, they can go and work there in the roaster plant. And then the son of the producers, they will learn how to manage their own social enterprise, because that's what they want. So all these things set Capeltic to a fair trade and direct trade for through the economy development. So that was 20 years ago, and I guess it was 10 to 11 years ago when they built the roaster plant. I want to mention, for example, Grace. She went down to Chiapas, and she had the opportunity of going with the producers and to know the roaster plant. Uh, can we jump, Grace? Maybe I will. So yeah, and I know this is Spanish, but this value added process just started with the production in the fields. So that's why the members of the Capeltic Coffee, they needed to create a formal and legal entity in Mexico, because they said like, hey, if we're gonna do this thing, we're going to do this thing in a legal way. We want to really set a part of the economic development in the country, in Mexico. So the Capeltic project really started by, okay, let's really set our production system. Let's build a legal entity with all the members of the coffee producers. As I mentioned, the Capeltic project started with 20 producers only, and now there are more than 200 families that have joined the cooperative. And that's going to the next step to create a cooperative way of both working and living, because it is also part of the indigenous system, like saying, hey, I don't know how to roast, but I trust you can show me. And if you show me, then I will know how to roast. They really focus on what they really want. So after setting the legal production company or association, they went like, okay, let's go to the industrial sector. I'm gonna show a little bit of my shirt, yeah. So you can see Batsil Maya here, which I'm turning to the third step in this circle. The Batsil Maya is the industrial sector for Capeltic. In Batsil Maya, uh, that's the roaster facility where we have a warehouse for the coffee that is already harvested. Then we classify the coffee because the coffee, as humans, there are big, medium, and big sizes of coffee. There are that heavy beans or not that heavy beans. So we need to classify the coffee all the way to have the best quality beans. That's what Batsil Maya um, plant is doing. And after the classification, we in Batsilmaya we roast the coffee. We have three different kind of roast mainly in the market. We have the light, the medium, and the dark roast. So the people there start noticing like, okay, according to the roast, we can create different um, profiles, no, like different tastes in the cup already, because everything finish in the cup. We know that, right? And that's how I'm jumping to the fourth step. That is where they created the Capeltic commercial brand. It was like, okay, we have already developed the commodity sector. We have developed the industrial sector. Let's go to the service sector, all the way in origin. I'm always talking about in the origin in Chiapas. So they were thinking like, what kind of worth can work as a commercial brand in the marketing efforts. They set this brand Capeltic, which means our coffee. And when I say our coffee, it means that it's not only producers' coffee, but it's also the roasters' coffee. It is also the barista's coffee, and it is also your coffee. I'm gonna say the names, Brian, Amy, Barry, because you are the consumers of this whole project. So the very success of Capeltic was to create a coffee shop inside a Jesuit campus in Mexico. The Jesuits, they have also universities in Mexico, and they are called Universidad Iberoamericana. So when they notice like we already have a good quality product to offer to people, let's go and try to set a service sector with a coffee shop that is inside the Iberoamericana campus that is in Mexico City. That was the first coffee shop they built. It was 15 years ago. But the Jesuits also said, like, we cannot just stop in the Capeltic, in the service sector. We need to make this a social investment all the way for this to make reason to really develop the origin area in Chiapas. So what Capeltic aims for is also to go back with an economic model to develop the origin. So one of the big data they mentioned, um, it was that before setting the whole Capeltic project, the people in Chiapas, the members, they used to eat meat one time per month. But with the Capeltic project, they start having a bit of more money to have more, chicken and pigs, and they could eat maybe meat one per week, let's say. So it's kind of strange what I'm saying, but that was the develop. And if we call this all as a model, Capeltic, it is based in the solidarity economic model that different to any other models, what the solidarity economy model is that that model places the person in the center, but not only the money. So how did they develop this solidarity economic model? Through making business, right? So and fostering values and initiatives focus on building this community because, as I mentioned, the Capeltic project aims to mention the producers, like what's going on with the producers, but also what's going on with the consumers. So talking about consumers, what we want to let the consumers know in Capeltic is that without them, there will be no fair trade model, right? So, for example, yesterday I had the opportunity of joining a class in the Jesuit campus here in Puebla, and I talked to students, and that's something that I mentioned to them. Like, thank you, you are making like due to your purchase of coffee, you are making this whole solidarity economy model possible. And this is also like hard to to say or to mention, but the solidarity economic model is a cooperative model because we need to notice that the whole model is not only depending on us, like we need the whole characters of the economic system all the way to develop. And finally, to create this social ownership by completing the economic cycle. So as I mentioned, there are like 200 families, members of Capeltic right now. We really wish that all these families can go to the big cities like Puebla, like Mexico, why not to the USA, so they can see the final product with the consumers. It is hard to do that, but lately we have had the opportunity of taking like 2 or 3 producers to Mexico City, and when they go to the coffee shop in the campus, they are like, "Oh, this is where my product finished." Something that I really missed mentioning, it was that from the uh, from the from the plant to the harvest, it took to 4 years to have coffee beans. So for the producers going to the Capelty coffee shop and noticing that, oh, this is where my product finished, that's such an amazing thing that really sets the producers like sense of belonging to the society. Um, yeah, let's jump.
Yeah, and Lalo,
Let's,
if I could just add to, I think on the last page we had, it shows this, cycle, like this sort of, supply chain too of the coffee, which I think can be really helpful to see too, to just seeing and understanding like how many, steps there are. And this is also kind of a smaller version of that supply chain. I think there are probably other smaller steps between each of these as well. And that, it's a pretty large cycle that has, people behind it, and also like an impact too on the earth, throughout all this, that we're dependent on the earth to grow coffee beans and really be a large part of this cycle. So when thinking about the solidarity economy and kind of reflecting on how that's affecting people and planet and sort of these Catholic and Jesuit values, I think what's really interesting is how Capeltic really has created this social ownership of the entire cycle of that entire supply chain. And that ownership really is a way to benefit and protect the producers and farmers, and also the earth too, that's being utilized in this process. But yeah, thank you, Lalo. I just wanted to add that in.
No. Well, something that I really like about partnership with ISN and with Grace is that because I am improving, of course, my English in business terms, right? But I just noticed that for the US market, there are, like a specific keywords or something, but that's something right, Grace. What you mentioned, that in between this circle, there are so much few steps before all the way to get to that. And well, this is a picture of the coffee fields, but I don't really want you to focus only on the field, the background. I want you to notice these people in the picture, right? So hopefully, due to the G Suite network, Capeltic has had the opportunity of getting to G Suite's organizations in the US. One of these organizations that is partnering in the last 3 years with Capeltic, it is the Santa Clara University based on California. So there is the Ignatian Center at Santa Clara that they really prepare people that want to join to an immersion project. So when I had the opportunity of going to the US, I had the opportunity of going to New York, and one of the teachers told me like, "Hey Lalo, it doesn't care that people haven't go to Chiapas. These people from US, they kind of know how is the relation with Latin America, so." There is people that uh, haven't come to Mexico, sorry, and then they kind of know like what's going on around. I know the bad news are always going all the way up, but specifically this team, the immersion team from Santa Clara, they came on 2023 and on 2024 all the way down to Chiapas, Mexico, to have this experience about going to the fields. They got to know the producers. They got to know how the roaster process it is. And of course, they bought a lot of coffee. So this really set like a very more than a cooperative thing, like because the people in the town, the local people, they were like, oh, these people are not even Spanish speakers. Where do they come from? Like, so this creating community allows the Capeltic project to create these links. So we are just waiting maybe for the next summer to 2025 to to keep these in immersions coming. And we would love also to have many other groups like parishes, like any other Catholic institutions coming down to Chiapas. So they want to know about the coffee process, and they can enjoy a good quality product. Um,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, sure.
Thank you, Lalo, for like that background too, just around Capeltique. And again, I think what really separates Capeltique, especially from a lot of other coffee producers, is that direct trade too, and the entire cycle of the coffee from, growing it to roasting it, all being done in the community by farmers and producers there too, which is really wonderful and also unique. which is really kind of leading in now, I think, to ISN and sort of our relationship with Capeltic and how some of that grew too. So um, I had mentioned before that, my role with ISN is with one of our newer programs, which is called the Catholic Ethical Purchasing Alliance, or, we often call it SEPA for short. And SEPA's goal is really to connect Catholic institutions, which include universities, high schools, parishes, and then other larger institutions within the church and who identify that way, connecting them with producers and vendors that value what we often call here the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and then profit. So SEPA really focuses quite a bit on apparel, but then also on coffee and the coffee supply chain too. So in working with Capeltic, we really found that with the cooperative model and the focus on the solidarity economics, that this really applies to protecting the people who are working, and kind of this Catholic social teaching really calls that the economy serves the people and not the other way around. So seeing that this social enterprise and cooperative model really benefits the community and the workers who are growing and roasting this coffee. And then also the planet too, that there is this relationship. I think Lalo talked a lot about that there is this connection and relationship to, Mother Earth and to, the what is benefiting people in this, system is being able to grow coffee beans, in a way that also respects the care for the creation and the land that it lies on. So that connection of really, valuing people and the planet before, making profit, and profit is really important, which is why it's a key piece in this, but really looking at how can we value people and the planet first, and make sure that that is being uplifted and protected and being viewed with dignity. So that's really SEPA's work here, is really trying to connect those two together, which is really where Capeltic came, about probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, really wanting to connect together, these values with one another. A key partner in the SEPA project with ISN is a for-profit company called Ethics Merch. Ethics Merch has a real focus on ethical values that vendors may have and connecting with them. So again, really focusing on people and the planet in the type of vendors that they work with. They do a lot of promotional goods, so things you might see at like big conferences, t-shirts, lanyards, those types of items. But have also been a key partner in this work with Capeltic, ultimately too by offering to store coffee in their warehouse, which is located in Sutton, Massachusetts. So it's been this really great opportunity with Capeltic to be able to ship coffee from Mexico into the US, so that we can open up this coffee in a more maybe streamlined way to US consumers here. So ultimately, the coffee is coming from Mexico, going to Sutton, Massachusetts warehouse, and then is being shipped out of there to the many institutions here in the US that are looking to order Capeltic coffee. So Ethics Merch has been a really key partner as well in this. So you can kind of think of it as ISN, Ethics, and Capeltic really working together to offer this in the US. So just wanted to kind of give a few of our current partner parishes and institutions. So these are just a few of them. Some of them are newer, some of them have been longer term partners as well. And we really want to hope that Capeltic can be utilized in these institutions, whether that's for, large events like parish events, in offices, which we see, specifically I'm thinking Boston College, like uses Capeltic in their office for faculty and staff. And then also just other, events and even single purchase buying as well, for individuals too. And so these have been sort of core partners and institutions in this project so far. We are also hoping, and I'll be reaching out to, especially if you're interested in this afterwards. We're hoping to be opening up a pilot program that we're going to be calling like the Parish program, which I'll be able to give some more information to also. Again, if you're interested, where ultimately we'd be looking for parish sort of liaisons to be ordering coffee, in bulk or however much you want, and then being able to distribute it to individuals in your own community, in your own parish, rather than having a lot of single buying from the same parishes and communities, having one person to be able to really, organize that can be really helpful. And when I take you through the website, I can also show you how there are some, options to save and like bulk purchasing and things like that as well. So that's something that we're also looking towards. And so if you're interested in something like that, you can definitely let me know, and I'll be sending out more information around programs like that we're going to be coming out with. So I'm just going to exit out of this presentation. I'm sharing my screen, so you should be able to see here. I'm just going to take you to the website. I thought it might be helpful to just show you a little bit of what this looks like. Just to clear up again, please write if you have any questions in the chat as I go through this, just to make this more clear. So you can access the website in a few different ways. If you go to our website at Ignatian Solidarity Network, you'll see in the top bar, it'll say store. And when you click on store, it'll bring you to the ISN store where you can find Capeltic. You can also access it by typing in, I'll actually just type it in the chat right now. It's igsol.net/cafe, which is a sort of quicker way to do that as well. So when you type in that, it'll bring you right to this page here. You'll see we have a few different options that we're selling around Capeltic. So we actually started selling Capeltic with this 1 kilogram bag, which is ultimately 2.2 pounds of coffee in the US metric system. And so the kilogram has been really great, I think, especially for we've gotten feedback from office use, where there's a lot of people drinking coffee all day long. It's a nice bag, to have and last for a little while. We also have the 1 pound bag, which might be more familiar to US consumers, a pretty standard, pound bag of coffee. And then we also have, we sell a pop-up shop option as well. And the pop-up shop can be used and utilized for large events. Some, I know, parishes and communities will do a Christmas fair, or an alternative holiday giving fair, things like that. That's where pop-up shops can also really come in. So we give sort of you can buy at wholesale a mix of various different types of the coffee. So, ground, whole bean, decaf, caffeinated. And you buy that at wholesale and then sell it for, whatever you would like at your parish after purchasing it. So those are our current options right now. And so if you click on the 1 pound bag of Capeltic coffee, it'll bring you here. And I also really like the website. I direct people to it a lot because there is quite a bit of information when you look about Capeltic itself, and about some of the history and some of the connection with the Jesuits and how that's all working. So you'll get some of the background there. And then you can ultimately choose, ground, whole bean, your quantity. And then there's some options here as well, which is the one-time purchase or subscription model. So we do offer a subscription model where you can subscribe to having Capeltic coffee on whatever type of basis you would like, whether that's monthly, every few months, things like that. And in that you do, we offer like a saving program as well, for going into a subscription model. And then there's also other discounts as well around like buying 10 or more pounds of coffee will get you like $1 off, or 20 pounds or more will get you like $2 off, things like that. So there are some options as well there, especially when looking at purchasing, if you're looking to purchase for a whole community, a whole parish community, or a big event, there are these options to do that as well. So let's just say too that you add it to your cart, and just to show you when you check out, it's a pretty standard checkout option as well. So it shouldn't be it should be pretty straightforward in this way as well, the checkout process. And like I said before, it will be shipping from Sutton, Massachusetts, which kind of streamlined the process a little more to do it that way, and hopefully to cut out some of the shipping costs as well, rather than it coming shipping directly from Mexico. Being able to ship from Massachusetts, I think, has helped in that way a little more too. So going back here to the presentation.